Hey everyone, it's Kate, and July is Let's Get Physical month at the Confident Stitch. So I am going to show you how to make the Cora shorts and leggings from Jalie today. This is part 2 of my Cora series. On Wednesday, I showed you how to make the pocket and the gusset, and I'll include a link to that video right up here. The Cora leggings look really hard. They're color blocked and they've got that curved back seam, but they're really not that bad. And I am going to show you the slightly difficult parts so that you can make them too, because they're really fun. Today, I'll be showing you the curved back seam and the waistband. So let's go over to the overhead and let's see if I can't. We have a new studio. We're so excited, but I can't scoot all the way over to the overhead because my mic is too short. All right, thank you, Rachel. So this is what the Jalie Cora tights look like, Cora leggings. You can make bike shorts or leggings, and they can be 3 colors or 2 colors or 1 color, but they're really, really fun. So it is slightly intimidating to sew this curved back seam. The first thing you want to do, so we made our pocket on Wednesday. You want to take the pocket. I made the pocket on Wednesday. You're going to sew your back outer leg pieces to the pocket piece to make this curve. And you'll also, if you're making the leggings, you'll sew the calf piece to the back outer leg piece, right sides together. And then this is the piece that we sewed on Wednesday with it has the gusset in it and the back crotch curve. So you're putting a convex curve in a concave curve, which can be slightly confusing. But as I said last week, on Wednesday, sewing your notches is super important. Not sewing your notches, but cutting out your notches is super important with this pattern because there are a lot of notches, and if you just slowly match them up, everything goes together really well. So I'm oriented with my 2 curves, and now I want to sew them right sides together. So I'm going to flip the gusset piece so that it's right sides together with the pocket and the outer leg. And I'm going to pin that mark. And then I'm just going to go down the leg and match up the notches and pin them. Move this way. Okay, here's another notch. So I'm going to today just do one half of the back. I'm going to go from the bottom of one leg up to the pocket and not go down the other side. But when you're sewing this, you want to sew from the bottom of one leg up and over the curve down to the bottom of the other leg. So I've got my notches pinned, and this is a little down here. This is the calf piece and the bottom of the inner leg piece, and it's a little, there's some serious weird curving going. So I am going to do one more pin here, maybe 2, just to make sure I have everything lined up. You can, of course, make these with a serger, which is really fun. I actually made 1 pair with a serger. But if you are, I would suggest basting this step with your machine first. I'm going to go over to the machine now because you'll be able to see that it's a little fussy, and you kind of want the control of having a machine so that you can see what you're doing before you serge it. So I always pin with my balls out because in this case, I'm going to sew it with the other edge up. I never know which one it's going to be. So get these lined up, and I'm just sewing with a straight stitch. I use a kind of long straight stitch. I have it at 3.25 millimeters, and my machine gets calibrated for sewing with knits automatically, which I love. But it basically reduces the presser foot pressure. You don't want the presser foot squeezing the knit too much, because then the knit will stretch and it's just really hard to sew. So I'm stretching a little bit while I sew, and I'm sewing with a straight stitch at the 1/4 inch. If I weren't doing this on video, I would do a zigzag stitch right on the edge of the fabric first. That's the way that Jalie says to sew your knit seams. And because these are 2 curves going in different directions, I'm kind of going underneath and pulling the underneath fabric to make sure its edge is lined up well with the top fabric. And I just do a couple inches at a time, make sure it's lined up. And sew those 2 inches, and then let's get these 2 inches lined up. I want this calf seam to go down, so I'm gonna try to position it. So I also, not only does this machine reduce the presser foot pressure, it kind of cuts it in half from if I was sewing a thick woven. And it also has a dual feed. So back here, there's a lever pulling the top fabric along at the same pace as the feed dogs are pulling the bottom fabric. And that is really helpful for knits. If you don't have a dual feed mechanism on your machine, you can get a walking foot. Certainly whenever I sew with an unusual fabric, I do lots of experimenting to see what stitch. Where am I? Oh, here. Yeah, okay. Phew. So this is why I don't do the seam on the serger first, because as you get up toward the pocket and the upper curve, it's a little bit hard to be oriented. So you just want to make sure that you've got your 2 seams lined up, everything else out of the way. I'm gonna go lift up my foot, get under that, and you're just, you're gonna make sure it's getting caught on the pocket. There we go. You just want to make sure that you're honoring the curve, keeping the notches together. And there I am at the halfway point. So if this was real life, I would keep going all the way around down to the other leg. I'm going to show you this on the overhead. blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm back. So there's a, no?
I think the mic just died.
Oh no. Can you hear it? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the waistband again. It comes in two pieces. One is the waistband and the other is the waistband facing. And the waistband facing is a little bit narrower than the waistband. And you'll see why as we construct it. So to make the waistband, you'll just sew the waistband itself, which is this print fabric. It's called Pool, and in a loop with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and also the facing, you'll sew that in a loop with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then right sides together, you're gonna sew them with a straight stitch at the 1/4 inch along the top edge. And then you're going to, I'm going to turn this way. You're going to mark the quarters. So the way I do that is from the back edge, you can mark where the front edge is, put those together, and then you can mark where the quarter marks are, right there and right there, because they're like that. So matching up the quarters, and I forgot to mention that in the instructions, it tells you how long to cut your 3/8 inch elastic. And so cut that at the length it's supposed to be for your size. Sew the elastic together in a loop. And then you're going to distributing the elastic evenly. You're gonna line it up so that the bottom edge of the elastic is right along the seam that you sewed when you sewed them right sides together along the top. It's gonna line up right there, and I'm on the facing. So on the facing, right along the 1/4 inch edge, and your elastic is going to stick up about 1/8 of an inch because it's a 3/8 inch elastic, and you're sewing it to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to go over to the machine and I'm going to zigzag the elastic in place. And I have my zigzag, I have a wide zigzag. It's 4.5 millimeters wide by 2.2 millimeters long. It's a little bit bigger than in both directions. And I want to basically zig right off the edge of the elastic and then zag on the elastic. So when I do this, when I sew this part on this machine, you're gonna say like, what's so hard about that? Why are you doing this step for us? Because it doesn't look that hard. Well, with this machine, it doesn't look that hard, but I tried to do this multiple times on a machine where you can't reduce the presser foot pressure, and also that doesn't have a dual feed. It's still a little hard, even with all my fancy machine. It's just the elastic wants to move to the side out of place. So you just have to slowly keep it right on that seam. But when I tried to do this with a machine that wasn't adjustable, it was really, really hard. So I hate when you watch a video and the person makes it look so easy and then you try it with your machine and it doesn't work at all. So I'm just saying, if you don't have the ability to have either a walking foot or a dual feed mechanism, or you can't reduce how hard your presser foot is pressing down on the fabric, you're going to struggle with this step. And you will be stretching the elastic a little bit. I'm making this pair for me, and my tummy is not that much smaller than my hip. I made a pair for Maisie, who has a tiny little waist, and I really had to stretch the elastic so that it would be small enough for her. But I don't have to stretch that much for just, I'm making a size Z and not making any alterations. But you will stretch the elastic a little bit. I wore the shorts home the other day because it's about 100 degrees in the afternoon here, and I walk to work every day. And I had worn pants in the morning because it's nice and pleasant in the morning here. And my husband, who, you know, I sew all the time, he cannot believe I made them. They really are kind of a parlor trick. You can really impress your friends. All right. So actually, I'm going to stay over here. Can you see? Okay. So I have sewn the elastic with the zigzag right to the seam allowance. And now I'm going to understitch, which just means taking the facing, which is the purple, and laying it on top of the elastic. And I'm going to top stitch the facing to the elastic. And that is what's called, I'm just using the zigzag again. That's called understitching. It's a technique that I use with all facings. It's one of those magical sewing techniques that it's just a simple step. I'm kind of separating the waistband from the facing and making sure it's nice and flat. It's a pretty simple step. It takes a couple minutes, and it means that the facing is going to be, or the waistband will just scooch over to the facing side. So I'll show you that just a little bit of the front waistband is going to go over toward the wrong side, and you're not going to be able to see any facing loops from the right side. I'm going to get the little pucker here. There we go. Start to get a pucker, you can just stop with the needle down, lift your foot, let the fabric relax, and then I teach understitching in my Learn to Sew class, and it's just so magical. Okay, I'm going to backstitch just to secure the thread. All right, so let's go over to the overhead. And because I've understitched, you can see from the right side that you can't see any of the facing, you just see the waistband. And then on the wrong side, just a tiny bit of the waistband, about a 1/16 of an inch. is going over to the wrong side. And it's just gonna naturally lay like that, which is wonderful. So the next step, which I'm not gonna do on camera, is just to baste the facing to the waistband, kind of hold it in place. And then you'll sew the waistband to the leggings, hem them, and you're done. So I hope this helped you feel confident that you can make the Cora leggings from Jalie. They're really wonderful and well drafted, and if you just take it slow and do every step and match up the notches, they're gonna turn out great. I will be back in August when I'm gonna be making a Picasso top from the sewing workshop, and I'm also gonna be refilming my denim video, my sewing with knits video, and my sewing with rayons video. We filmed those a long time ago before we had really good equipment. We're still improving our equipment every week. And we just moved into a new studio. So I hope that our faster internet has helped the video quality. So I hope to see you in August. And if you want to learn more about sewing and quilting, you can subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.